Israel is pressing ahead with its military operations in Gaza despite the US pausing a delivery of munitions. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared overnight Israel will stand alone if it has to. With us now is Bryce Wakefield, the National Executive Director at the Australian Institute of International Affairs. Bryce, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So what do you make of this solid call by US President Joe Biden, as we know, a lifelong supporter of Israel?
Yeah, I mean, it is a gutsy move. It's not unprecedented. The US has, in the past, issued stern warnings and threatened to withdraw support for Israel when it claims that Israel has overstepped the line. Here, though, we should be precise about what Biden is threatening to do, which is to stop the shipment of heavy munitions for an all-out assault on Gaza. He's not necessarily saying to Netanyahu that precision strikes and other operations within Rafah should be halted. In fact, the US has been particularly consistent all along that Israel does have a right to defend itself, but has to do so responsibly by targeting only military operations of Hamas.
Do you detect a shift overall, though, Bryce, in US government sentiment towards Israel?
Yeah, I mean, Biden has to be careful in terms of the domestic US politics. There's a lot of resistance to Israel's war on Hamas, or in particular its indiscriminate bombing of cities in Gaza. Obviously, we've seen images of protests on campus, but Biden is also facing pressure from his left wing. There's also a concern within the international community and within the foreign policy community in Washington that if Israel does launch an all-out attack on Gaza, that it could regionalize the conflict. So you may see actors such as Hezbollah getting much more involved in this conflict, and therefore the conflict will spread. Up until now, the conflict has been relatively contained, and I think that's the way Joe Biden wants it to stay.
But the conflict is continuing. It's been raging since October, since the Hamas terror attacks in southern Israel. We've seen so much death and destruction in Gaza on civilians in that time. Based on your reading, do you see this conflict ending anytime soon?
No, look, I don't think that there have been calls for a ceasefire. I think Netanyahu has to play to conservative factions within his government, and Israel won't stop until it feels that the threat from Hamas has been totally neutralized.